All right, and we're live for episode 6. It's Monday, March 23rd. This is Tony Talks. Thanks for tuning in. How's everybody doing? What's new in the world? Everybody having a good Monday so far? Everybody have a good weekend? Good weekends? Do anything fun? Maybe went out of town? Took a plane somewhere? Visited some family? Maybe you had a big, some type of gathering with all your friends. And you were all able to, hang out together. That's the world as I know it right now. Of course, that's unfortunately not the case because the coronavirus has other plans for all of us. We're all quarantined inside of our little lives, locked down with not much to do. FaceTime is the only way we should be able to communicate with each other. I think personally everybody should be locked into a room. And if the only outside contact you should have should be either FaceTime or maybe email. Email might be a little bit too close and personal. FaceTime, I was talking to some family back home in New York, and they sneezed. They sneezed right over the phone. I felt like it popped through on the other side, and I just had to hang up. You cannot take chances. You cannot take your chances because they might have something. They don't even know about it yet. The symptoms may not have been shown. They might need to get tested, and then they're FaceTiming you, and they're coughing, and they're sneezing, and then they want to claim it's allergies. Don't talk to these people. I think it's important that you try to close people off as much as possible, and you got to get like a little dirt pot and grow some plants in your home or in your apartment. And, you got to pick, hopefully those seeds start to grow for you because you can't trust anybody. You don't know what these people have. If you want to FaceTime somebody, make sure you really know if they were tested and if and that they tested negative, because I'm not taking any chances. I was talking to my mother. She coughed. It looked like she told me she had allergies or something. I don't believe her. She's been a great mom to this point, but you know what? If she's gonna cough while I'm trying to FaceTime her and talk to her and see how she's doing, and put me at risk, I'm not it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I have a lot that I'm trying to do with this podcast. It's only been out for a couple of weeks now, and I just want to be safe. I'm playing it safe. And Mom, if you're listening, give me a call some other time, maybe in a few months when allergy season, right? Allergies. I'm supposed to believe that shit. Get the fuck out of here. Take your germs, take your corona, and get the fuck. And not that I'm saying this about my mom. I'm saying this about everybody. Get the fuck out of here. This. So I was, I was on the phone with my brother. No FaceTime because, the FaceTime, I think, will put you at a little bit more risk than if you're just on the phone with somebody. So we were talking and we were reminiscing because we always had plans for the last couple of years. We, really feel like the last 10 years, we always said, we're going to get some land. We're going to get some seeds. We're going to get like a container home or something out, where nobody could get to us. And then we're going to have emergency food. We're going to have all this stuff. And that's going to be a bug out spot. In case shit hits the fan, we're going to be ready. We talked about this for like 10 years. We had weapons, we had ammo, we had all this stuff. Food, security system set up, and we were going to bug out. Well, I really wish we actually did that. Fucking stupid. I would totally be at that location right now. But instead, I'm avoiding FaceTimes. I'm avoiding these large crowds of people that are showing their true primal nature, hoarding all the toilet paper and Lysol for themselves. So, it's something we always said we were going to do. And then we were talking on the phone, and we were like, we really should have did that. Because shit's hitting the fan. But we're stuck among the masses here. I'm in a little bit better situation because, he's up there right by New York, and they have 20,000 cases now, which is by far the most in the country. And we always said, no, this would be the worst place to be in case something happened. Well, it's the worst place to be. So they were talking, and now they're going to bring the National Guard in on California and New York. And I was walking the dog earlier, and there was this couple, or at least there was a male feminist talking to a female, and he was saying to her, this is really unfortunate. It's really affecting the whole country. And then the girl was like, yeah. And he was like, well, with the exception of the flyover states. And she was like, oh, the flyover states, you can't call them that. And he was like, oh, is that offensive? She was like, I think it's offensive. And I'm just sitting there listening to these people talking about whether the term flyover states is offensive or not. And I'm just want to go up to them. If you're not trying to be offensive and you both know what you're talking about, just fucking say it and carry on. The flyover states. I don't know if that's an offensive term, but if you are a loyal listener of the Tony Talks program and you happen to live in one of the flyover states, please let us know if that's an offensive term. I think that would be very educational for all of us, because you guys weren't here to tell us, and you guys seem to be better off right now. And they catch a lot of flack, the middle states, because of how rural they are. And it's like, I don't get it. Why do they stay there? Why don't they go to someplace by the water where there's a big city and a large population of people, like California or New York? Oh wait, I know why. Because it would be the worst place to be in case something like this happened. So maybe we should have all flown halfway, landed, and set up camp over there. But what are you gonna do? So that's that. We are I'm finishing up week 1 of the Onnit 6 bodyweight program. So shout out to Onnit for producing the Onnit 6 bodyweight program. Shout out to internet providers all around the country for being able to keep us plugged into the network. Because if the internet goes down, you think people are bad now. They'll be going out buying routers, hoarding all the routers. And then they'll wonder, well, why doesn't the router work? Because it needs to be connected to the internet. And then it routes. I don't know how it works. I'm just talking out of my ass over here. But that's how it is. Some guy was had like a YouTube channel or some shit. And he was like, what the coronavirus is? It's a conspiracy. And he used the logic, who do you know that has the coronavirus? I don't think it's real. He thinks that they're all just lying to us. But now a United States Senator, Rand Paul, has tested positive for the corona. I heard the first time he took the test, it came back as a Dos Equis. But upon further review, it was a corona. It was a terrible joke. But, hopefully the corona stocks bounce back. That's who I'm really concerned about. And that there was an article and how Rand Paul was the only senator that voted against the coronavirus funding bill at like the beginning of March. And now he's tested positive for it. And I like Rand Paul a lot. And I do want to say he probably doesn't give a shit that he tested positive for it now. That doesn't mean he would change his vote, because the dude has, and at least he's got principle. I think that at certain times you need to have hybrid versions of government. People are saying, oh, now everybody wants $1,000 check from the government and this and that. And now certain bailouts or certain type of relief to American workers, when the Republicans never wanted that stuff before, but the Democrats wanted it. Bibbidi bobbidi boop, bibbidi bobbidi boop. Well, what needs to happen sometimes, different forms of government are more useful than others in certain circumstances. Just because something's applicable to the 1% of society doesn't mean it's applicable to the other 99% of society or the other 99% of time. So I think that's something, if people thought about it differently like that, we could reach across the aisle and actually connect to each other on a lot of different political ideologies. But instead, the people that are Democrats or leaning to the left are going on the Instabook and the Facegram and your sister's PowerPoint, and they're saying, well, this is why the Democrats voted no. It's because it's not doing enough, when it was already a pretty socialist program. But whatever, who gives a fuck? People just like we'll figure it out. We'll get through it. I don't know if that really made sense what I just said, but something that I'm starting to see about Trump right now, he's not really thinking like a Republican leader or a party line leader. He's just trying to be pragmatic and do things that seem to make sense. And I don't think it in these type of circumstances, it's like similar to being in wartime, where you just know that defeating the enemy or just being able to sustain our society or our way of life is the most important thing, rather than being divided over party lines. And party lines are pretty prevalent in today's political climate, especially now more than ever, because of Trump, really, because he talks with a lot of rhetoric. He's very brash, comes off as a dick, which leads me to my next point of reporter. I'm going to play a link because this has been talked about on the news. Trump was giving a White House briefing, and he told the reporter was asking a question about, what should you say? What do you want to say to fearful Americans right now? And he asked it a few times, and whatever, and then Trump came back and he said, I say that you're a terrible reporter. But I have the clip. I'm going to play it, and I'm going to give my thoughts on it in a second. Here you go.
What do you say the Americans were scared, though? I guess nearly 200 dead, 14,000 who are sick, millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Go ahead. I think it's a very nasty question, and I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people. The American people are looking for answers, and they're looking for hope. And you're doing sensationalism, and the same with NBC and Comcast. I don't call it Comcast. I call it Comcast. Let me just for whom you work. Let me just tell you something. That's really bad reporting. And you ought to get back to reporting instead of sensationalism. Let's see if it works. It might and it might not. I happen to feel good about it, but who knows? I've been right a lot. Let's see what happens, John.
So there you have it. That was the exchange. And this was broadcasted on CNN, NBC News, obviously. I think that's where the reporter was from. I don't have his name written down right here, but it was a 90-minute brief. It was a 90-minute brief that had a lot of context and a lot of content in it with shit that's actually relevant. If the media would just not report on that, it wouldn't be news. But because they're taking 40 seconds from a 90-minute brief, and that is, and the fact that they're spending 15 minutes, 20 minutes, up to an hour talking about the president's reaction to a reporter asking a question is just it's asinine, and it just shows why people are less trusting of the fucking media. It just shows why people are going to Joe Rogan, the guy from Fear Factor, for our news. It just goes to show why people are coming to fucking Tony Talks for their fucking news, okay? Because you could always count on Tony Talks to give you the fair and balanced perspective, okay? Doesn't matter if it's left, doesn't matter if it's right. Because if we're not going forwards, we're going backwards. That's what we say over here. So, anyway, I usually, I get frustrated with myself because after every time I record a podcast, I have a notebook and I'm like, I'm going to start writing things down in between each recording, and I'm going to write a note down. Then I do the same impersonation for everybody, to include myself. And as you can see, I'm talking right now, and I don't sound like how I'm impersonating myself to sound. So if you hear me impersonating anybody and it sounds ridiculous, that's because it probably is, because that's how I impersonate everybody, with the same voice. And so I said I have a notebook, and I'm going to start writing things down that I'm going to talk about in the next episode, because the people are counting on me for the news, okay? And what ends up happening is I have the notebook and I don't write anything down, and then 5 minutes before I hit record, I'm fucking writing bullet points of stuff that that I can talk about. So this is really professionally done. I want everybody to have the utmost confidence that we are this whole support team here at Tony Talks is giving you our A+ effort, and that we're not just winging it half the time, because there's I know that you guys are counting on this, and everything is fact checked. This isn't just my opinion. This you could take to the bank. Anything I say in here, you could take to the bank and just take it as gospel. Okay? Yes. So you had the scumbag senators. Shout out to them. They got briefed on the coronavirus, told everybody not to worry about it, and then sold off all their stocks. God willing, there'll be an investigation, and they will get the Martha Stewart treatment, because they're a bunch of scumbags. Isn't that like the definition of illegal? They knew something, they used their position, and then they made profit before the shit went to shit. The shit went to shit on that one, and the shit came back to bite them in the ass. Hopefully they got a lot of toilet paper to clean their asses up before it got taken over everywhere. Jerk offs. So we got a UFC 249 coming up. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know. We're less than a month away, and there's still no venue for it. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Tony the Kid Ferguson. How you doing? Dana White went on the ESPN. He said we'll have some news soon. Khabib went on Instagram Live on March 17th, and with his manager Ali Abdelaziz, however you pronounce his name, and they said they're gonna have news hopefully within the next couple of days. Well, it's March 23rd now, and still no news on where the thing's gonna be, where the fight's gonna be with Tony Ferguson. We're all counting on the UFC to give us the entertainment. You know, that's some real first world problem. We want the UFC to still happen, UFC 249. Well, it's Khabib and Tony. So if it was any other event, I could kind of live with it. But it's been four times in a row. And if those two guys are healthy and on weight and they aren't fighting each other, it would be fucking criminal. So hopefully they figure it out. And I'm sure with my luck, with the way this podcast goes, when I record something right after I hit the stop button, everything that I was just talked about was contradicted with the way the news is running today, because everything is always fucking changing. So big news, and it's very, very sad story. The coronavirus has spread to Harvey Weinstein. Oh, poor guy. Harvey Weinstein, of course, if you don't know, was the producer who forced a lot of actresses to have sex with him or blow him or some shit, and now he was sentenced to go to jail, or he was in jail, and now he got the coronavirus. So good Godspeed to Harvey Weinstein. We're all wishing for a fast recovery for him. And I think I speak for everybody. If you haven't seen a picture of Harvey Weinstein, do look him up, because this guy is the human version of the coronavirus. If the coronavirus was a person, it would probably look like Harvey Weinstein. The fact that this disgusting person forced anyway. So yeah, Harvey. So that's it for Harvey Weinstein. So we'll see what happens with that guy. He looks like he's got some health issues, and he's definitely got some moral issues. So good luck to you, you fucking scumbag. Anyway, I want to thank anybody that's said nice words about the podcast to this point. I really appreciate it. If you do like it, share it with somebody that also appreciates incoherent rambling about stuff from a person who has no business rambling about the news. So if there's people that would appreciate that perspective, the incoherent rambling perspective, as I'm incoherently rambling right now, please give it a share. Give it a share to people that are also in this together with us, because we're doing the best we can here. And we know that you're counting on us for the news and to give you the fair, balanced perspective. The fair, balanced perspective. And that Tony Talks, that's what we're all about being fair, about being balanced. We're not left, we're not right. I have, but really thanks to everybody that gave a review. We got a 5-star rating on the iTunes podcast channel. So thank you. I hope you don't listen to any other podcast, because once you see what a real podcast sounds like, you'll probably be like, oh, yeah, that was really wasn't that good. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm doing my data science thing. I feel like I'm fucking more lost than ever with it, because we're learning Python right now, and I have no experience with coding at all. But it's going, and I'm staying while it is going, because that's where I am behind. A lot of people in the class had previous coding experience. I had none, zero, zilch, nadas. But in other frustrating news, the Dallas County mayor issued a lockdown for this whole area starting midnight tonight. It affects pretty much everybody except for essential employees. I'm not sure what the term essential employees means. I was able to talk to some associates back home in the Windy City, located in the Sunshine State. Of course, I'm talking about New York, about essential employees over there. Apparently, if you're a CPA that works in a building with a couple of thousand other people, you are considered an essential employee over there. And I just couldn't help but wonder how an accountant would be essential right now to go to work, because they are being forced to go to work as an essential employee. Also, construction workers are essential employees. I'm not saying it's not important. However, unless you're doing maintenance or mechanical work to keep things up and running, do we really need to be building more buildings right now if you're trying to limit the amount of people out in the streets or out in general? And a CPA being essential, especially that they just extended the tax deadline to July 15th, which is other news that came out of the one of Trump's recent press conferences. The tax deadline's extended to July 15th. Isn't that a job that can be done remotely as well? Aren't you just going to be going to work and working on a computer? I think a lot of businesses are just opening up, and what sucks is if there's not a month of profit, a lot of people are going to be in trouble, and that's why it's important they get this bill passed. But a CPA having to go to work doesn't really make much sense to me. Isn't that like a quintessential job you can do from a computer from home? I don't like, what do they have to be there for? To have meetings in person? All the work is done on computers. If you have internet service and computer, you can do that job, and I'm sure a lot of other jobs that are going to be called essential right now. And then construction companies putting their workers at risk by having them continue to, and they already have very substantive, they already have at risk with a lot of things. If they have PPE, if they don't have the correct type of PPE and all that stuff, and they have to commute in, especially in New York City, and this is New York City I'm talking about the CPA and the construction workers. If you have to get on a bus, most of the workers don't live in Manhattan. They're coming from out of state, they're coming from Staten Island, they're coming from Brooklyn, they're coming from all over the place. And like we are seeing with a lot of coronavirus cases, if they want to contain the spread, a lot of people are testing positive for it that are asymptomatic, that just decided that they would like to get tested. You're needlessly, I understand the finances are important for it, but if the priority right now is to contain this thing, we have to rethink what is actually essential. When I think of essential, I think of hospital workers. I think of anybody involved in supply chains and logistics, police officers, firefighters, electricians, people that are going to keep the grid up and running. I'm sure I'm missing a few. Government, of course. That is what I think of when I think of essential, not the guy that gets my taxes done, or the guy that is nonetheless important. But if you're building a new building, if you're doing new construction, unless it's a hospital, you're not essential right now. Yeah, so I don't know, part of the issue is too, a lot of politicians are coming out and saying we're in this for the long haul, and we're expecting up to 90% of the people. There have been politicians that have said everybody is going to get the coronavirus at some point, which pretty much contradicts the whole idea behind social distancing, which is to say that if we quarantine ourselves and keep our group gatherings to a minimum, under 10 people, and everything else that they're strongly enforcing that we do, it makes it all seem pointless. If we're all going to get the virus anyway, you're going to have the same people that are going to go to the beach for a spring break say, oh, what the fuck, we're all going to get it anyway. I'm going to go out and YOLO. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck. I'm going to have a good time. If I'm going down with the corona, I'm going down with the corona. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll go down with the Captain Morgan. Maybe I'll go down with the Don Julio. Maybe I'll go down with the Patron. Something else. Some of these other essential Mexican type of beverages that the kids down there on spring break in Florida were having fun with. And speaking of spring break from Florida, apparently all those kids then went to the beach, were having a good time. How you doing? 5 of them just came back, tested positive for the coronavirus at a university somewhere over there. So there you go. College kids living in the dorm, congregating in large quantities at the beach. 5 of them just come back test positive. That means that there's probably a lot more cases over there that we don't know about. And factor that into symptoms not showing in many cases for up to 14 days. Factor that into a lot of testing is just being ramped up to its current levels that we could sustain right now. And you're going to see a lot more cases. And I'm seeing a lot of people show the United States compared to other countries and how the numbers are a lot higher here than in other countries, and that shows that we're not having a good response to it. And I think part of that is because you're comparing just total numbers of the U.S. to total numbers of countries that have 1/10 of the population of us. So of course the U.S. is going to have higher. I mean, it's not that we're doing having the best response. I think part of it is there's a culture here where we expect freedom and being able to move about and do whatever we want all the time. When we are asked to stay home and quarantine and keep gatherings to a minimum, we will be later to the party just because the culture here, that is something that contradicts the ideas of freedom and what it really means to be an American on many levels. So it's very skeptical, and it goes against the nature of the people that live here. But in the long run, if it takes having those freedoms on hold for the greater good of the public health for the short run, then it's something that you have to do. And I'm saying that as I'm more of an independent now, but as a historical libertarian that I've been previously. We really got to do what we got to do because it's real. Just when you look at Italy, and you're seeing a lot of the cases now, they're saying the majority of the cases in the United States are people aged 20 to 50 or 49 or some shit. So, this thing is not discriminating on age groups. A lot of people saying, oh, it only affects old people. Like, that's any better. Like, that's any more of a reason to go out and contaminate or take your chances with the virus, because you could spread it to an old person. And if they're old, that's their problem, which is a very selfish fucking mentality to have, because you should be looking out for those people because they have got us here. They're the ones that did a lot of great things for this country. They're the ones that helped put us trillions of dollars in debt. No, I'm just kidding. You can't remove humanity, and humanity should always come first. And you shouldn't have to have the government there to put the guidelines in. I don't know if there are strict penalties if we're going against a lot of the guidelines that are in place, but as long as you keep going against the guidelines that are in place, the longer we'll have to do this, and the longer we'll have to look out for our elderly population. Whenever anything like this happens, whenever there's any type of emergency scenarios, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy, the most vulnerable population is always the elderly. So, and with good reason because of they tend to have more underlying conditions. As you get older, your immune system gets a little bit weaker, and that's why this stuff is affecting them so disproportionately. And we got to look out for that group of people as well. It could, there's plenty of stories about people having permanent breathing issues, lung issues, even though they've recovered from the coronavirus. Of course, we don't know what these long-term issues, what they could be, but it's something that I don't want to take a chance with especially as somebody who exercises regularly, trying to get my gains on. How you doing? Get ready for beach season. If the corona dies down, got to get my gains on, get my swag back on at 6, homebody challenge. Let's fucking do it. All of us need to be able to live normally, and it doesn't. Sometimes it could affect somebody that's strong. I mean, there was one of the guys on the Brooklyn Nets, super athlete, professional basketball player, is experiencing symptoms. Most people that are in that type of conditioning aren't, but it doesn't mean that it won't. You won't get a bad case of it. So let's look out for. And hopefully these people that are saying it's going to infect everybody anyway are wrong. They can go fuck themselves, while the rest of us can go fuck each other and create a new generation of coronitas that can come of this. So the boomers, Generation Xers, millennials, and whatever the fuck comes after the millennials, let's look out for them. And let's look out for the Coronitas. And that's going to do it for Tony Talks this Monday, the 23rd. This giant production that I have over here, I'm looking to do a couple of more episodes a week. I'm trying to do 3 a week because of the quarantine and because people somehow might find some use to listen to a jackass with a microphone who has no business talking about the news, making light of shit. I don't fucking know, but with more reps, this will keep hopefully get better, and hopefully if you like it, you can share it, get a review. Otherwise, it's at Tony Talks 8 on the Instagram, at Tony Talks 8 on the Twitter sphere. We're on Stitcher. I'm gonna look to get on Spotify soon, on Apple Podcasts, and I'm trying to finalize a few things, trying to get the YouTube set up too, and that's about it. And also Tony Talks 8 podcast at gmail.com. And on that note, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here, and actually I'm gonna stay the fuck in here, and you stay the fuck where you are too, unless you're an essential employee that needs to get taxes done for everybody. So have a good one, and I'll be able to talk to you next time.